محمد ورا سنة حتى في الصومال دول.
You are most welcome to Uganda. I would like to use this occasion to once again put to your excellencies the point of view of some of us who are the indigenous wealth creators of this part of Africa. Even in the pre-colonial times, when our economies were pre-capitalist and traditional, and in spite of life of our rigid tribal customs, we never tried to impose our ways of life on others. The tribes knew very well and respected the principle of live and let live. With the modern economy of producing for the market, our political movement developed more contempt for the parasite ideology of sectarianism, of religion, tribes, and gender chauvinism. Why? It is because we, the wealth creators of this area, produce milk, beef, bananas, fruits, oil seeds, coffee, cotton, etc. You need the East African and African market. Hence, the second ideological principle of the national resistance movement, our political movement, is Pan-Africanism. Pan-Africanism. Love Africa. Love East Africa. Why? It is because you need them for your prosperity. It is on account of this medicine of the four principles of patriotism, Pan-Africanism, socio-economic transformation, and democracy that saved Uganda from the collapse of 20 years, 1966 to 1986, that we were forced to advise our brother General Bashir of the Sudan regarding the poison of the politics of identity, of Sharia law and Arabism that they were promoting in that great Afro-Arab country of many cultures and religions. I told Bashir that my list of haram was much longer than his, because people from the Middle East and other places waste our time. Haram, 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 haram. My list of haram is much longer than all those people. As somebody from the cattle culture, of the savannah areas of the Great Lakes, I do not eat fish. Fish to me is haram. This is how I get a problem when they invite me. They want me to eat their food. I don't eat those foods. I want to go with my food. Chicken is haram to me. Eggs, mutton, goat, pigs, wild animals, etc., because they are ebhagaro, in my language, abominations. However, even in the times of pre-colonialism, the cultures of the Great Lakes adhere to the principle of live and let live. Hence, although the Banyankole did not eat chicken or eggs, our neighbors, the Baganda, the ones of this area, or the Baziba of Tanzania, would get free gifts of chicken and eggs when they would visit their Banyankole friends, our Nyamkago. Banyankole were keeping chicken for the ancient religion of divination, killing animals, seeing how the intestines are arranged, and therefore knowing what God wanted. Okuragura, it's called Okuragura. The Baganda Baziba over Kochi could moreover catch the Nshonzi mudfish in the nearby swamp without any hindrance. It is this live and let live culture that enabled this area for more than 1,000 years to develop a trade-connected area, TCA, that enabled the East African coast, Dar es Salaam and so on, Zanzibar, the Savannah Plateau of Tanzania, the Great Lakes areas inland, and the Congo forest to exchange goods and services such as textiles, Emienda, guns and gunpowder, Embundu and Uganga, ghee, Amashta, Omzugo, skins and hides, Empu, Emuguta, Emiringa, copper bracelets from the Congo, Engoro, ivory bangles from Congo, Amoshe, giraffe hair neck wear, wood products, salt, omonyo, etc. So, because of this live and let live culture, even before colonialism, the tribes could live peacefully without this one trying to impose their culture on the other one. And that's how we had this trade long before the Europeans came here. It is not correct to allow African, again, to be diverted by this disorientation of the politics of identity, especially if it is done by force. We always share this with our Somali brothers and sisters. The clan polarization some actors push is poisonous and should be discouraged. If there are enough patriots in Somalia, the forces of progress in the world should support them. Those who insist on clan and sectarian organization, whether out of greed, parasitism, or ignorance, are mortal enemies of the future of the African race. How could they insist on clan and sectarian organization when our enemies were coming as empires? Because those who are colonizing us were not coming as clans, they will come as empire. You know them, those empires who are colonizing us. They come as empires. For you are with clans. How will you defend yourself? Yet, the people they are dividing are either similar or linked people. Because the people you are dividing into clans are actually the same people. Yeah. Coming to the concept of army building, in the context of a collapsed state, we have always advised the Somalis about the concept of a volunteer army for national salvation, not a paid army. This is because a collapsed or a hijacked state will not have capacity to pay monthly salaries for a large enough number of soldiers to secure a large country like Somalia, which is 3 times the size of Uganda in land area. A continued small Somali national army in terms of numbers, plus a small armed force from friends, is a very dangerous underdose that has caused the chronic sickness of insecurity of Somalia. In fact, Al-Shabaab is a very weak force. Otherwise, all this time and space you have given them, by this time they would be very strong if they had a healthy embryo that could grow. This is my opinion. I used a small corps of 28 highly trained cadres who were trained for us by Samora Machel of Mozambique between 1976 and 1978 in Mozambique to train a force of 9,000 in just 5 months between the 23rd of October 1978 and the 11th of April 1979 when Amin collapsed in Kampala. People with a good cause of justice can use a little support to build quickly and affordably a big force. Mwalimu, who was supporting us, could not afford and had no good reason to do so, to pay us monthly salaries. However, he was able to give us a rifle per fighter, maybe 2 uniforms per person per year, food and medicine when sick. We had a volunteer non-salaried army for 17 years, 1971 to 1987, and thereafter, until only 3 years ago, we had a lowly paid army where a general would be paid Uganda shillings 2 million, which was like $522. That's how we have been able to afford a big army, an army that is able to defend Uganda and even contribute to other friends. However, we handled the welfare needs of the fighters by buying food, giving free education for their children in the army, government schools, free medical care, soft loans for their spouses to do economic projects. That is how we have been able to build a strong and adequate army, even when our economy was very small. It is only recently that we started paying some levels of the army better salaries. We could, however, only do this because we were all getting low salaries. We were all getting low salaries. Even now, I get a very low salary, even today. So nobody can say, give me more money because you are getting more money. Therefore, Somalia and its supporters needs to end the underdosing of the problem. We need enough and better equipped Somali soldiers, or enough external and better equipped soldiers, or both. With funding, Uganda can provide many more soldiers. I thank all the attendants. Thank you very much.
I would like to begin by thanking His Excellency President Museveni for the warm welcome and hospitality accorded to me and my delegation. It's a pleasure and privilege to be here today and address you on behalf of Somalia. I would also like to express my deep appreciation to the troop contributing countries of the African Transmission Mission in Somalia, ATMIS, the African Union Support and Stabilization Mission in Somalia, AUSOM, and all our partners for their unwavering commitment and support in the fight against terrorism. Together, we have accomplished great success and much more needs to be done in eradicating Al-Shabaab from Somalia and from the region. Our pursuit of a peaceful and stable future remains to be a top priority, and the role played by our countries have been indispensable in providing us with your time, resources, and your very lives. We honor your sacrifices, and we assure you that it is not in vain. In 2007, the African Union Mission in Somalia, AMISOM, was born out of necessity during a period of heightened conflict and has been vital in degrading Al-Shabaab, expanding the humanitarian access, supporting political transition, training Somali security forces, and saving many, many lives in Somalia. Without doubt, Somalia will not have made the progress it has in building institutions, increasing economic activity, and establishing rule of law without the work of our brave and less equipped Somali National Army, the African Union troop contributing countries, and our international partners. Excellencies, with our collective effort toward securing Somalia, we have been able to have the space to further our state-building efforts from the onset. My administration prioritized rebuilding trust between the federal government and the federal member states of Somalia. Through continuous dialogue, we have been able to reach consensus on many contentious issues, including the most contentious chapters of the Constitution, such as power sharing, fiscal federalism, national security architecture, and the electoral model. The most notable achievement is the ongoing voter registration exercise in Somalia after almost 60 years. This phased and auditable exercise aims to register approximately 5 million citizens and marks a turning point in strengthening the transparency and the legitimacy of Somalia's democratic process. In addition, early this month, I have called on the Somali political elite, the civil society organizations, and other key stakeholders to rise above divisions, confront the security threat we face, and to build a nation that truly reflects our vision of a democratic, stable, and prosperous Somalia that is at peace with itself and with the rest of the world.
Let me start by paying tribute to all troop-contributing countries and for the sacrifice made for the sake of peace and stability in Somalia. I also praise the memory of our fallen soldiers and wish quick recovery to those who are wounded. Your Excellencies, the troop reconfiguration of ATMIS to AUSOM has been successfully conducted. The adoption of Resolution 2719, thanks to the African A3 members of the UN Security Council and the African Union Commission, is also a milestone event. However, there are still reluctances to implement Resolution 2719 to Somalia. It will take a collective effort to mobilize financial resources up to $190 million for the 2 phases of ATMIS AUSOM during the course of 2025. Your Excellencies, the gain of territories against the terrorist group Al-Shabaab have to be recognized, although some setbacks have been reported recently. However, it is paramount to consolidate those gains in making AUSOM fully operational. In the same vein, the federal government of Somalia should speed up the fourth generation process for more sustainable frontline positions of the Somali security forces. The Commission also urged the federal government of Somalia to pursue its political efforts in the state institution building processes. This will certainly include a greater inclusivity at the level of the National Consultation Council with the participation of all federal states. And we recognize here that His Excellency President Hassan Sheikh Mahmoud has convened a meeting early May to invite all federal states to come and start dialogue with him and with the federal government. We congratulate President Hassan Sheikh for that. Your Excellency, Somalia has been at the top of the African Union peace agenda close to 20 years now. Despite the financial challenges, the African Union will continue to support peace and stability in Somalia. We cannot afford losing the gains made so far and all the sacrifices made by our sons and daughters. The African Union Commission is engaging all partners, and in particular, our member countries of the African Union, to ease the constraints on the peace funds so that more resources be available to avoid any failure in the transition process from ATMIS to AUSOM. The Commission will request from troop-contributing countries to convince other member countries of the African Union of the necessity to rely on domestic resources in these troubled times. Your Excellencies, let me conclude by reaffirming the full commitment of the African Union Commission to support the African Union Peace Mission in Somalia out of solidarity with the government and the people of Somalia. And finally, I would like to thank our partners who have been supporting the African Union mission from the very beginning: the United Nations, the European Union, the United States, and so many others. I thank you.
The purpose of the summit was to discuss the prevailing security situation in Somalia, and during the summit, the heads of state received a report of the ministerial meeting, that is for Ministers of Foreign Affairs and Defense, on the review and proposed way forward on the security situation and performance of OSAM sector by sector, update on the Somali security forces, state of preparedness and progress in force generation, integration and mentorship, status of handed over forward operating bases, the OSAM exit plan, funding of OSAM, and TCCs, plus Somalia peer review mechanism for oversight, accountability, coordination, monitoring and evaluation for OSAM, and the Somali Security Development Plan. The summit was preceded by the ministerial and senior officials meeting from the 22nd to the 24th of April 2025 at Misil Hotel, Kampala, where a ministerial report was adopted and presented to the heads of state and government. The summit noted with appreciation the progress made by the leadership of the federal government of Somalia, which includes joining the East African Community, becoming a non-permanent member of the United Nations Security Council, lifting of the arms embargo, implementing financial reforms necessary for economic growth, as well as preparation for the next election, where they have embarked on registration of voters. Directed the chiefs of defense forces of the TCCs plus Somalia to work out a comprehensive plan to deter, degrade, and eliminate Al-Shabaab. Underscored the importance to increase the OSAM troops on a bilateral basis in the short run to address the prevailing security situation in Somalia so as not to roll back the hard-earned gains made so far. Reaffirmed their commitment to continue to support the federal government of Somalia in its stabilization efforts in the spirit of Pan-Africanism. Stressed the need to increase air assets, capabilities, and intelligence surveillance and reconnaissance as force multipliers, and further underscored the importance of using all available assets in a coordinated manner. Underlined the need to ensure proper fortification of forward operating bases in the OSAM sectors. Encouraged the federal government of Somalia to strengthen civil-military coordination, prioritizing humanitarian relief and quick impact stabilization projects in recovered territories to consolidate security gains and foster enduring community trust. Took note of the federal government of Somalia's efforts to strengthen its relationship with the federal member states through the National Consultative Council mechanism. Reaffirmed the need to establish mechanisms for countering extremist narratives, to counter Al-Shabaab propaganda by promoting interests as opposed to identity. Stressed the importance of recruiting community, local defense forces, and mobile forces to hold and consolidate areas that were liberated. Underscored the need to finalize the African Union and United Nations procedures to expedite the deployment of the Egyptian troops. Stressed the importance of addressing operational shortfalls through provision of adequate, sustainable, and predictable funding and rapid force generation to fill identified capability gaps, ensuring mission effectiveness and boosting morale among deployed personnel. Reiterated that the best solution to adequate, predictable, and sustainable funding is the application of the UN Security Council Resolution 2719 of 2023 on Somalia. Welcomed the role of the traditional and non-traditional partners to support the African Union Support and Stabilization Mission in Somalia and the federal government of Somalia. Agreed to submit the decisions of the recommendations of this extraordinary summit of the troop contributing countries to the African Union Support and Stabilization Mission in Somalia and the federal government of Somalia to the African Union Peace and Security Council for endorsement and onward transmission to the United Nations Security Council as a working document, and commended His Excellency Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, President of the Republic of Uganda, for convening this extraordinary summit and expressed appreciation for the excellent facilities extended by the government of the Republic of Uganda to all delegations. Done at Entebbe State House on the 25th of April, 2025.
You guys have a clean shot. You have a clean shot?
Once you get done,
Amazina ninje George Matongo wa Wangoma Mungu Mtuntu hano gwetaka tozi
tataka ndagete bakuya talubo hagwachidan senazo za kwaririn kwenda za shutiza bana.
Irrigation, as you can really see, using water, especially in the dry season, for use in pilot plant and estate residential areas. It study to dispute the same irrigation water.
We must really endemic problem. Here in Uganda, we had the problem of Idi Amin. Our African brothers in Southern Africa were assisted by the frontline states